Well, hi there, and welcome along to part two of our betting expert Cheltenham Festival preview, sponsored by bet365. On last week's show, we were looking at the grade ones, all the top table contests. Well, this time around, it's a case of the handicaps and very much best of the rest. As always, to dissect all things Cheltenham Festival wise, Stephen Harris is in the saddle. Stephen, always the handicaps, tricky affairs, added complication would be, as I said, the weather forecasters are bowling us googlies at the moment. 2 weeks ago, we were told there was no rain pretty much for the next month in the Cotswolds. Well, recent forecasts suggest we could be in for a deluge at the last minute before racing. So not only are the handicaps tricky enough to try and solve when you know the weather forecast, I've made it very straightforward to you from the Met Office there, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? I mean, we've been banging on for about the last 3 or 4 months, haven't we, about sort of good ground, good to soft, having to water, which he has been.
Yeah.
That's looking slightly more controversial now, though I guess he didn't really have a lot of choice. And it now looks like we're going to get plenty of rain sort of consistently leading up to the festival and certainly on the first day or two. But who knows? I mean, things can change. It's still a week away as we're recording, but I've sort of assumed good to soft ground now, maybe more soft than good to soft. But I mean, it shouldn't be against any of the horses, should it? It's proper jumping ground. It's what we really should be expecting. It's just that the last couple of months, since we had that big freeze after Christmas, it's actually been sort of good ground up and down the country, certainly in the UK anyway, if not Ireland. So yeah, a bit of an imponderable. I know there's lots of bookmakers. You won't be wanting heavy rain at Cheltenham. It's not a great place to be when it's pouring with rain, is it? Yeah,
Tell me
everyone
about it.
sort of huddles into the same 10 square foot area inside. And yeah, it will be a shame if it's sort of blighted by heavy rain on the day, that's for sure.
Yeah, the memories of the Wednesday of last year's Cheltenham Festival come flooding back. 21
Mm,
millimetres, I believe, ahead on that Wednesday. You remember that crazy day when Shishkin
yeah,
pulled up and rivers running down the car park.
yeah.
Absolute carnage. Anyway, we've got our excuses out the way early doors. We don't know what the ground is. We don't really know who's running where. So let's crack on and find the winners. We're going to kick off with the Ultima handicap chase. Of course, this is the third race on day one of the festival. 3 mile, 1 furlong handicap action here, as the title would suggest. Corrick Rambler leads the market. Last year's winner at 15-2. He's £6 higher this time around, but runs here on the way to the Grand National. We've got Into Overdrive, Nassalam, Stumptown, a likely runner, I believe, in this. Oscar Elite placed in it last year at 10s, 3 under through 5 10s. We're then going 11s bigger. Stephen, any strong views on this one? Essentially, I suppose you've got to start Corrick Rambler, last year's winner, £6 higher. Can he get the job done again?
Well, I mean, he's definitely a massive runner. And just to quickly say, Bet365 already offering 5 places. Maybe there'll be more on the
Non-runner,
day.
no bet. Yeah.
Yeah, and non-runner no bet. So the terms are pretty fair for punters. I mean, Corrick Rambler, the rain has definitely come in time for him. He loves soft ground. And Lucinda Russell has had a cracking season. She's got some lovely young horses. I'm sure he'll start favourite on the day. I would think Inter Overdrive is now handicapped to the hill. The other one up the top of the market, Nassalam, well, he'd love it if the ground gets really testing. That'll be a plus. The one I liked, again, tiny stakes, small opinion, Remastered. Now, did
Mm.
disappoint last time out, but didn't run as badly as it looks. He was still in contention coming to 2 out. He's been a model of consistency until that run. David Pipes had an amazing season. As the festival nears, he's had 6 winners in the last 14 days. Everything he runs is running blinders. Remastered has actually quite lightly raced over fences for a 10-year-old. I think he's 4 from 9 over fences. He's had 2 runs at Cheltenham. He ran really well over hurdles once, and he ran really well in the 2021 National Hunt Chase. He led for a long way and just didn't quite stay 3 mile 5, but he jumped and travelled really strongly. So 3 mile 1 in the Ultima. If he's back on song, he's my selection.
Yeah, interesting stuff, as you say. Battle hardened individual. I had a short list of 3 for this race for some time. Lord Accord and 3 under through 5 being the 2 towards the top of the list. However, they would like the proper Costa del Gloucester to arrive. They want spring grounds. That has tempered my enthusiasm. And my mudlark in here would be Iron Bridge for the John Joe Neal
Yeah,
team at around 14-1. This horse loves soft ground. And the Yard have a terrific record. And they said, what with Alfie Sherrin, haven't they? Holywell in
yeah.
recent years. He's got that unexposed profile off 137 on soft ground. I think he's a huge player, but I think he's entered in about 28 races at the Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah.
So we'll probably have to keep our powder dry to nearer to the time. But a strong word for remastered for Stephen there in the Ultima. Obviously, we'll get the champion hurdle, the mare's hurdle out the way, and we'd shuffle along to a very straightforward contest to work out. That is the Boodles, of course, the handicap for the juvenile hurdlers. The relegation zone for the Triumph Hurdle, as I heard someone say on a preview night the other night. I thought it was a little bit unfair. We get some very good horses come through this. There is an argument, of course, the best ones could be in the Triumph Hurdle, but that's a debate for a rainy day. And look, wide open contest here. Tikal has got the graded form in the book, I suppose, Stephen, and naturally everyone's cottoned onto him, but there must be something here at bigger prices taking your fancy.
Well, there's more plots than the local allotments, isn't there? In this, I mean, it's a fascinating race, a blinding race to bet to watch. I mean, whether or not it's a fantastic betting medium is another matter. The late money on the day, always fascinating. I think there's one here which is very interesting. Tony Martin, obviously,
Mm,
when the money's down with his horses, he's still a very potent force. Perhaps not got the ammunition he used to have, but Zanderbad has run 3 times so far. Ran an absolute screamer on the first 2 occasions at Leopardstown on the 27th of December and then at Naas on the 29th of January, shaping really well in huge fields. Last time out, he made a bad mistake at the wrong time under a ride that, well, maybe had an eye on the future, let's call it that. And he was never really landed a blow, but he's now got a good opening handicap mark to work from. Encouragingly, here's the thing: he was a 4-time winner on the flat, and most of those runs and wins came in testing ground in France, which is
mm.
very interesting if the rain does arrive. I mean, I'm convinced we haven't seen the best of him. I think I see 365 at 14. I'm sure there's 16 about, but he's a completely unexposed one who's a very interesting runner. I mean, to be honest, Ed, he's one of those who could easily end up sort of 5 or 6 to 1 if they want to be
Mm.
on.
Yeah, I'm with you.
If the rain arrives, if it's testing by the last race on the first day, which looking at the weather forecast, I wouldn't be at all surprised. I mean, you touched on it in the opening salvo, didn't you? You said at that Cheltenham Festival last year, I think we had every single
Yeah.
possible going description, didn't
Yeah,
we? From the
it's
first
really,
day to last.
really, really
Yeah,
quick on day one. It was
yeah,
heavy by the end of the Wednesday, and then 2 days of 16 degrees of blue skies. And by the Gold Cup, there was more good in the ground than anything else. Exactly,
yeah.
it does dry
Amazing.
incredibly quick at Cheltenham. So yeah,
Yeah,
late rain, I suppose, is the key, isn't it? So if you've got a mudlark in here and it's going to rain all day, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, then
yeah.
well, yeah, you could see a gamble, couldn't you?
Definitely, definitely. Which one did you like? I mean, you could have 10 guesses and not find the
Yeah.
winner here, I suspect.
Well, my anti-post pick, actually, I put this up on the show a couple of months ago, was Metamorpheus for the Paul Nolan team. Of course, running that good race last time out, finished fifth, but it's the race which has a springboard. I think it's produced 4 of the last 6 Boodles winners at Naas. So I think he was given a sympathetic ride on that occasion. He won't mind a bit of cut in the ground. So he's long been a fancy there, Metamorpheus. I actually think Ben Pauling, who really is having the season to remember. He's having his best season numerically since he took out his training license. He's got a couple of interesting sorts in here. He's got Samuel Spade, who looks well handicapped on his Perseus Way form. We tried to give £8 to Perseus Way, finished runner-up to him in the Chatteris Fen. Perseus Way, of course, then chased home Nusret in the Adonis. So in hindsight, that looks pretty good form. And I also believe that there's this horse in here, the phrase going around, he's so bad, he's good, is also at 16 to 1. Bad has joined Ben Pauling from France. Total unknown.
Mm,
By all accounts, he's going to run as well. And he is working well, according to the handler. So, yeah,
right.
a little bit more of a short list at the moment, other than Metamorpheus of nailed McCullers to the master a couple of months ago. But I'm keeping my eyes
Sure.
on both those Ben Pauling types. They won't mind juicing the ground, and I'll probably get involved on the day. As you say, Stephen, keep your eyes on the extra place terms. But bet 365, 5 places now, non-red and no bet. Of course, if your selection does not line up, you get your money back. As
Um,
straightforward as that.
we
Right, that
should
is the
say it,
Boodles.
shouldn't we,
Oh,
that
go on, mate.
that Nusret we think runs at Aintree and misses Cheltenham.
Yeah,
He's quoted at
absolutely.
7 to
Yeah,
1 at the minute, but obviously non-runner no bet. It doesn't really
yeah.
matter. But I think Daryl Jacobs on record as saying he's going to be more of an Aintree horse than a Cheltenham horse.
Indeed, and especially subsequently with the revised weather forecast, he's a horse who they stress would want. I don't think they've ruled out a flat campaign with him. Actually, he wants proper quick ground. So you'd say it
Right.
is unlikely he would run, but as Stephen does point out, non-runner, no bet, etc., etc. Right, the National Hunt Chase, not a handicap, but he falls under best of the rest. Well, you've got a Grade 1 winner in here, haven't we? Galliard de Manil, even money. A lot of people saying he's just got to stand up to win. A lot of people saying this is a loophole in the race. This is unfair. How can you have a Grade 1 winner running in an amateur race? Maybe they need to revise the terms uh, of this race and who can run in it, or at least if you're going to run a Grade 1 run a Grade 1 winner in it, they have to carry a penalty of some sort. Anyway, that's all by the by. The fact is, Galliard de Manil is going to run. He's probably going to go off odds on if when Stable Companion Ramillies comes out, which it sounds like is the vibe. And then you're looking at 6-7 to 1 the rest of the field. Is there anything you think here can upset the apple cart?
No, I mean, I thought the favourite was something of a good thing. I mean, it's not a race that commands a great deal of attention, but the one thing's for sure, I mean, he's completely unexposed, granted a test of stamina like this, isn't he? He's run once
Yeah,
over 3 mile 5 in that Irish Grand National, and he ran an
yeah.
absolute screamer. So there's no doubt about his stamina. He's probably got one of the best jockeys in the race. He's liable to be in the first 2 or 3 throughout, and after about 2 miles, 90% of this field will be falling out the back of the TV. So I don't think it's going to be a very competitive race. And he's going to be the classic bookmaker v punter horse on day one, Ed, because there'll be a lot of punters chasing their losses
Mm.
and lumping on him at sort of around evens to get out. And there might be some, if it's gone the wrong way for bookmakers, they'll all be standing in for their max because they've got bookmakers on course have got to win 1,500 quid a day expenses to break level. So it's quite a tough old ask. So this is going to be a sort of make or break course on the day, despite the fact it's quite a sort of lowly race that nobody's paid much attention to. But in summary, I thought the favourite was a good thing, to be honest. As you say, I could see him starting sort of 4 to 5, 4 to 6.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Galliard de Manil, the other thing I would say as well, I don't think this, if the rain does arrive, that's going to be a problem for him. I thought on a quicker surface, there are a few others that could get in the shake-up. The number one being Chemical Energy, who was destructive at Cheltenham's October meeting when he beat Marla Mission, who's actually weirdly enough shorter than him now, but he beat Marla Mission 61 lengths in an absolute
Mm.
procession. That was the same race Galvin won before coming on to win here. Gordon Elliott's been stressing in all his bulletins in the build up to the festival, we'd want the ground as quick as possible. And if you look through his CV, all his wins have come with the word good more than anything in the underfoot kind of description. So if we did get genuine soft ground on the opening day, that would be a concern for me with Chemical Energy. And yeah, as unoriginal as it is, I'm just starting to think this Grade 1 winner running in an amateur race will just, he won't do anything in a hurry, but you won't need to in this. He'll just lob round
Mm.
and win. So that's the National Hunt Chase for you. Galliard de Manil, a strong selection for Stephen there, the market leader who could start a lot shorter in his view. Look, again, I'm vested interest with Chemical Energy, but my confidence will be waning the more the rain arrives. I would like to see some proper spring ground for him. Right, that pretty much has done and dusted the opening day's festivities in terms of best of the rest. Right, we're going to shuffle on to the Wednesday now. Of course, we've got the Ballymore out the way and the Brown Advisory, the Coral Cup. Now, this is a fascinating betting market. Camprond. Now, Camprond, who I'm very keen on for this race with the asterisks of let's please have the sun. Into 7 to 1. He was 33 to 1 for this race about 6 weeks or so ago. The Philip Hobbs, JP McManus charge, fourth in this last year. They've got him in off a £2 lower weight. So, look, I really am strong on Camprond on the assumption that we get some better ground. He got so unlucky last year with the ground. If the Coral Cup had been run on the Tuesday last year, I think he would have won by half the track. Of course, the rains arrived on the Wednesday. I think he did a splendid job to finish fourth, all being told. He's well handicapped, he's well treated. But what have you got as an each way alternative against that one here, Stephen?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of horses to touch on. Benson, who's going for that
Mm.
100 grand bonus. I mean, I must admit, I was completely unaware that this still existed. I think we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago, weren't we? And he duly won that race up in Scotland at Kelso
Kelso,
last
yeah.
weekend, and he's up for 100 grand. I mean, I'd be absolutely stunned if he was good enough, to be honest with you. This is a
Good luck to
much,
them, though.
much
Yeah,
better race. Yeah, but brilliant.
yeah.
And this is actually really good for racing that a Northern trainer's having a go coming down, and I hope he runs a blinder for him, but I'd have to be against him personally. The one I like and have done for some time is No Ordinary Joe, who's completely unexposed. He's obviously been a bit fragile for Henderson. but he landed an absolute huge Christmas gamble at Kempton on that busy day. I think it was on Boxing Day over the Christmas period. He only won by about 2 inches, but he travelled like a dream through the race and landed the cash sort of driven out from the last on the nod. And I thought, he's one of those horses they're going to look to Aintree or Cheltenham to land a touch with. And he's run once since. He ran at Newbury on pretty good, quickish ground in that Betfair hurdle that Auckland Risk dominated. And he never really looked like getting near the front and weakened 3 out. But I think he might want soft ground. So if the rain arrives, that'll suit him. It was soft when he won at Kempton. I remember his bumper a few years ago at Sandown, which is usually as soft as it gets. He handled the conditions really well and bolted up there. So he's lightly raced. He's unexposed. He's only run 7 times over hurdles. He's won 3 of them. I think Henderson's going to be sort of mob-handed in this. So it'll be interesting to see the jockey bookings if no Ordinary Joe lines up. But he's about 20-1, I think, for looking.
Yeah.
He was my selection.
Right, no Ordinary Joe selection for Stephen there. A bit of a value call. Keep your eyes on that one. I'm with Caprond, and I'm hoping they get the weather wrong. As I say that, the sun's coming out. But yeah, look, on soft ground, forget him. I don't think he's got that much in hand, to be honest with you. But on spring surface, I think he is a substantially better horse than 138, as he showed when he went to Punchestown last year and absolutely dotted up on a nice surface. So yeah, the Coral Cup, pretty tricky. Quite interesting here. We're obviously we're seeing things through home tinted glasses. We're tipping up the English horses here, aren't we? In the handicaps, this is the way it's going to be, Stephen. We're going to fight back this year. The cross country, one race absolutely dominated by the Irish. So basically, it's Delta Work versus Galvin in a match bet, isn't it? If you believe the headlines. Any view on this one, Stephen? No, this is not normally your cup of diet lemonade.
No, I've genuinely got no opinion at all. I
Right.
normally go and have a
Okay.
cup of tea, to be honest, when the cross country's on. It's not a betting race for me. I mean, the favourite's going to be very short. I'm sure
Yeah.
in on ratings he's got Galvin to beat, hasn't he? But the prices are
Yeah.
there. I think they're sort of 5-4, 11-10, and 5-2, and that's probably what they'll be on the day, I should think.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think the ground having a huge bearing on that as well. If the ground gets really deep, swings it even more in Delta Works' favour. Galvin, of course, very good form on spring ground, but does look a bit of a 2-horse race on paper, but no strong views on the cross country. Hopefully some stronger views on the Grand Annual. The following race on the cards, of course, 2-mile handicap chase here. Still on the old course. Of course, it used to be on the new course, didn't it? It used to end proceedings at Cheltenham. Now on the old course, Dino Blue, Auckland Risk could line up here, could line up in the county. We've got St. Moir, I believe, is going for the Arkle, isn't it? If you listen to connections. Andy Dufresne, of course, ran in this last year. Final orders 10-1, an expected party 10-1. Third time lucky. Not sure if he will line up or wait for 8-3 11s and then go in 12s bar. Any insight on this one, Stephen?
Yeah, well, it's bound to be the usual cavalry charge. I mean, there's been a few turn-ups in this. I always used to love this race, finishing the meeting, Ed. I thought it was a real shame because it's a cracking betting race, and there used to be about 10 front runners driving each other mad, and someone like Davy Russell or Paul Carberry with kid gloves would come, Paul Maloney would sort of come
Belvano,
cruising through from
yeah.
out the back, and it was a blinding race to play each way in, with the extra places, because you could back sort of 4 or 5 hold-up horses each way off a really strong gallop. And I usually, although that's not proven to be particularly profitable in recent years, I still think it's the right way to go. Auckland Risk is a brilliant advert for Chris Gordon. He's had a fantastic season. He's very versatile. He's a sound jumper from the front. He's going to be looking to make the running with about 5 or 6 others. I really like Coeur Sublime here of Henry de Bromhead, who I thought ran an absolute belter in Ireland last time out and just denied. Since then, de Bromhead's been in better form. He's had a couple of winners in the last 14 days. So hopefully he'll have his horses flying for Cheltenham. And of course, Sublime's got a couple of cracking course efforts in different races. I think he ran a blinder at this meeting last year behind Edwardstone. He wasn't far from disgraced at all there. I think he's absolutely tailor-made for a strongly run handicap at this trip. You get a patient ride. I'd imagine perhaps Rachel Blackmore will be on, creeping into things. I think it's one of the better bets of the day, actually. Each way with extra places, a double-figure price, a clean round of jumping. Surely he's got to go close for a fairly generous handicap mark.
Right, fascinating. Yes, that's interesting what you say there. Keep him in your notebook. So I was just looking back at last year's running, actually, Stephen. Yeah, the old boy Global Citizen is back for more. He runs, according to Ben Paulding. He's only £3 higher. I don't think he will disgrace himself. Andy Dufresne, of course, who was runner-up last year, likely to run in this again. So there's a lot of last year's form in the book here. Other than that, I'm power to drive with this. I think this is the only handicap I've not had an anti-post involvement in. That kind of
Mm.
tells you all you need to know. This is incredibly tricky. The one horse in there has been well flagged up on the preview night circuit, but Rouge Vif is probably the best handicapped horse in the field. If you go back to his form of a couple of years ago, where Harry Whittington went to Paul Nicholls, is now back with his previous handler, and has dropped the best part of 2 stone down the weights. He, of course, would want proper spring ground. I think he was near track record time when he won that Cheltenham October handicap off on good ground, going back a couple of seasons or so ago. But yeah, Grand Annual, incredibly competitive, but one of the better handicap bets of the festival, course Sublime, according to Stephen Harris there. The Champion Bumper. I did say on last week's show, we'll quickly touch upon this. You said you had absolutely, quote, no idea last week, Stephen. How have things progressed since then in the flat race, as you call it?
No, I mean, this is a race. I don't think I've ever had
Right.
a bet in the Cheltenham Bumper, but I
No.
have made books on them. Because I must, as a bookmaker, I always think it's a good race to be a bookmaker. Fill the hod, lay the front 3 or 4 if you can get them in at the right prices, and pray for a result. Because all of these horses are held in massively high regard. This track for young horses, it's a bit of a 90-degree turn into the straight. I always think it's a really messy and rough race, and
Yeah.
luck in running plays a huge part. Now, last year, the Principals came to the fore in absolutely atrocious ground, but in
Yeah.
years gone by, they've been second, third, fourth, fifth strings winning the race from the Irish. I mean, Ireland will win it. I mean, my token selection was a dream to share purely because I thought that with the trainer being a relative unknown, you might get some value. But JP's bought him privately since his win
Yeah.
at the Dublin Racing Festival, and he's now about 9-2, I think, or 4 to he's 7-2 with Bet365. I mean,
Long run, I
I
know,
think
but yeah.
it's a very short price. It'll be. There's no standout superstar, Ed, is there this year? Usually we've got a hugely hyped up, short price, skinny one for
Yeah.
them to smash into, but it looks a very wide open renewal. I mean, I'd imagine it'll be 4-1 the field at least on the day. You're going to get a huge field, and Ireland will fill the first 10 places home, I suspect.
Yeah, feels a little bit like that. Willie Mullins, of course, won this 4 of the last 5 years. He's got an incredibly strong hand. I think he's got 14 entries. Something absolutely ridiculous like that. I think he said 4 or 5 probably will take their chance. No strong view, but favour and fortune there at 20-1. And for the Alan King team, I was on the rails at Warwick on Kingmaker Day. You ran in the bumper there. Alan King, Trevor Hemmings wouldn't be your kind of go-to connections for a bumper winner. But this thing absolutely took off in the hands of Tom Cannon. It sounds like they may end up waiting for Aintree, but they've quote got to sit down and discuss it. If he does line up here, I think the anti-English bumper bias might mean you're getting a decent price on the day. Put it that way. And I'm not saying a shades of Q car, but I remember him winning it 40-1 with people kind of scratching around looking for who he was in the program notes. And
Yeah.
I wonder, look, Favour and Fortune just did it in a manner that he'll be a smashing chaser in time. But he's definitely a horse with a fair engine. So even if he doesn't run in this, keep him in your trackers. Favour and Fortune for Alan King. I think a horse with great potential going further forward. Right, that concludes all the action on the Wednesday. We now go on to Thursday's handicaps and best of the rest. My screen's frozen in front of me. Off the top of my head, it'll be the Pertemps final. Won't it, Stephen? That'll be the first handicap we get stuck into. Shoot first. Very popular in the market, of course. Trained by the absolute Shrewdy of all Shrewdies. Is a 3-1 market leader. You taking him on? If so, what with?
Well, I mean, maximum respect for Charles Burns, but I mean, you couldn't take 3-1 Arco in this race, could you? I mean, you've got to be at least 3-1 to get any sort of run. I mean, apart from anything else, every bookmaker at the track will be standing in for the absolute max. I mean, he could get even shorter. He's absolute stable nap. I know Vincent Finnegan, our Irish correspondent, is really keen on him. Has been for a very long
He's going
time.
to add an he's going to add an extension to his Valencia property when that comes in. I believe that's the
But
angle.
that's
Anyway,
yeah,
carry on. Yeah.
another couple of acres in the grounds apparently if Shoot First does the business. But no, so I mean you'd have to play against him at a really short price. I'd have thought. I quite like the top one here. Botox has now. He's again. I keep
Mm.
ticking.
Cliff
Gary
Horse.
Moore's had a yeah. Gary Moore's had a brilliant season. I backed him the other day in a graded race. He rather paid, I thought, for chasing Dashel Drasher here last time out and weakened two out. It was probably
Yeah.
the least good run he's put in all season, but he's a real tough hard knocking handicapper. Now he's got top weight to lump here, which will put people off. But you know, you're going to get six places, I'm sure, on the day. You might even get eight for looking. There's going to be a maximum field size, I'd imagine. Of course, they've changed the terms, haven't they, of qualification this year? We didn't
Correct.
talk about this much. First four only. So all those
Yeah.
horses who've been hiding their light under a bushel, finishing sixth in Ireland in
Mm. Yeah.
29 runner
4 now.
races, and they had to show their hand a little bit more. I think it's a good idea. I mean, I think they've done it right. Actually, it's made it. You know, it's more of a form book students race rather than a sort of plotty, not been on the radar for 2 years and suddenly winning at 9-2 favourite. But
Yeah.
that being said, I mean, I've just gone for Botox because they're tough, reliable, won't mind if it pours with rain, bound to give his run. Now, given his running, you know, he's no secrets from the handicap. He might finish eighth and run a
Mm.
career best almost, but I think he's bound to run well. There's no stamina doubts about him. He's a straightforward ride. Gary Moore's had a fantastic season and they're still in really good form as we near the festival. He's had 4 winners in the last 14 days.
Yeah, indeed. That's keep your eye on that individual. Who said it's always luck in running can play a big part as it always does in this type of assignment. I'm 2v the field here at bigger prices, itchy feet. And for the Ollie Murphy team, this horse is being revitalised by coming back over hurdles and off 143. Is still very well handicapped on his peak chase form. Let's not forget he was a Grade 1 winner as a novice. I think he was sent off joint favourite to beat Faheen in what was the Marsh
Mm.
chase going back 3 years or so ago. Now he's a horse with a lot of ability, and it looked like he kind of thrown the toys out the pram, but he's come back over hurdles and he's run with a lot more zest. Runner up in the Rendlesham last time out before winning very convincingly at Huntingdon the time before that. I wouldn't be shocked if he could show improvement off a mark of 143. But my biggest fancy in this has been for some time walking on air for the Nicky Henderson team. This individual, precociously bred, it just didn't quite happen early doors. Was sent off, I think, 9-2 to win the Grade 1 at Aintree last year behind the ill-fated three-stripe life. Jumped abysmally. Then wasn't all that convincing at Doncaster, however. At Exeter last time out, the penny finally dropped in the jumping department. Jumped superbly, travelled round, cruised round, and when Nico pushed the button, cleared away convincingly in the closing stages. I thought it was going to get absolutely hammered by the handicapper for that. Only got a £5 rise off 138. So being here off a nice weight, Nico, I'd imagine will ride. And Nicky Henderson says he's, quote, doing a Willie Mullins and he's going to run 5 or 6 in here. So Nico de Boinville's got a bit of a choice to make. So I'm sure that's confidence to, or music to your ears there, Stephen. Nico will be on board my selection. But look, on all seriousness, walking on air, I'd be shocked if he's not better than 138. From a lovely family. Out of that, the Mare Refinement, of course, she was beating a nose in the Mare's
Oh,
Hurdle
yeah.
going back 15 years or so ago. But she's a smart mare. He's a smart sort. I think there's more to come. So the Pertemps final, yeah, I'm going 2v the field, but walking on air, very much my main selection. Onto the plate. That comes up later on the Thursday. Scottish being very well supported for this in recent days, into 7-2 now. Kind of no hiding place there. On the face of it, seems pretty short, but a lot of very well regarded judges are saying this horse has a trick up his sleeve or two. Adamantly chosen 15-2 Hong Color, for Willie Mullins 15-2. Paul Nicholls Il Rodotto. Of course, he came bouncing back to winning ways last time out at 8-1. Balco Coastal, we believe, is heading to the Turners at 10s. Stage Star heading to the Turners as well. It sounds like, according to Paul Nicholls. And then 11s, Midnight River, 12s, Bar. Any view on this one, Stephen?
Well, I mean, on the face of it, So Scottish is very short. I mean, I half thought the handicapper might have got him last time his winning run came to an end, but he's trained by a genius in Emmett Mullins. The money will be very significant. I'm sure he'll be a well-backed favourite on the day. I don't particularly fancy El Ridoto. I thought got one of the best rides of the season from Cobden when he won here last time out. He made all the running and jumped well and battled a lot better than he has done previously. He won't be able to lead on his own in this race, and I think he is a bit chicken-hearted off the bridle if he doesn't get things his own way. And I don't think he'd want the ground to get too testing either. So I'd have to be against him. I really like Midnight River here. He's another horse, a bit like Botox has. There's no secrets from the handicapper, but he keeps coming back and giving his running at Cheltenham in big field Premier handicaps. He's ideally suited to a patient ride off a strong pace, and he's going to get it again here. Now, he is up to a career high after winning that big handicap here last time out, but he's at one of those horses he's produced late and he idles in front. So he only inches up by sort of 3 and 4 pounds at a time rather than getting whacked. And I think Midnight River is bound to run really well again. Harry Skelton will be riding him cold out the heat of the race. There's going to be at least 4 or 5 front runners, so they're going to go a really strong gallop. And I'm hopefully he'll get a bit of luck in running and weave his way through late. I think, again, he's one of those horses, talking about Coeur Sublime earlier in the Grand Annual, each way with extra places, the way he's going to be ridden, the place terms are even better than they are mathematically, because you're not sort of up on a strong pace, weakening out of things up the hill. You're being ridden cold to sneak into things late. And all right, there might be 2 or 3 better handicapped horses than Midnight River, but I think barring accidents or real bad luck in running, you should get a return on your investment.
Midnight River for the Skeltons. Obviously, if Harry wins, you'll get that aeroplane celebration to come out. I'm sure you'll get a photo of that up in your attic, and that'll suit you up there, Stephen. A bit of decor needed up there, I think. It has to be said. That's the plate. Look, Kill Crook, I've harped on about to the cows come home. Look, he's not up to a Grade 1 company and what we've seen this season. I have no idea if he's running, if he's even coming over on the boat. He's entered in the Ultima as well. But he has been placed at 2 Cheltenham Festivals, and he's only been given 149 by the British handicapper. Instinctively, that felt a few pounds shy. Normally, I was expecting a few of the Irish horses to be clobbered this year, but Kill Crook getting in south of 150. If he did run in this, I would back him, but as I stress, maybe someone out there knows. I've been desperately searching. I've been hitting the latest bar on Twitter and just keep hitting the search and seeing him with Kill Crook. And he keeps getting mentioned, but no kind of cast iron assertions of where he runs. Anyway, that's how exciting my life is. Right, moving on. Mares Novices Hurdle. Lucia, incredibly impressive so far. 13-8. Job done for you, Stephen, or do you think there's a chink in her armour which isn't being flagged up?
No, I think she's really exciting. I think Henderson thinks she's top class. She was extremely impressive. I don't think he will go.
Would you?
Supreme? I think I think this is more. She's only had 2 runs over hurdles. Yep. She's still raw, and this will be a real big test for her. She's won a couple of listed races that haven't been that competitive, but she's won them in the manner of sort of top class mare. So I think this is a really good fit. I don't think they'll got any intention of running her in the Supreme. I'd be amazed if she did. Obviously, you're up against a clutch of Irish horses. It's virtually impossible to compare the form, other than what we always say, that the form level tends to be a lot better in Ireland. But with mares, maybe that's not the case. Maybe there's a good mares programme in the UK, and Lucia has really looked the real deal. Maybe the only negative that would be, she's a very short price, and she is quite inexperienced, but soft ground would be no terror at all to her. She's a real strong traveller. She's going to be a cracking chaser down the line, I would imagine. But I think Henderson will be disappointed if she's beaten. She's going to be another very well-backed short price favourite.
Yeah, indeed. It wouldn't shock me to go carried away here if she ended up in next year's champion hurdle. Getting £7 from Constitution Hill. Anyway, we get carried away there. But Lucia, interesting. Nicky Henderson saying, I listened to him at his open day, said they were umming and ahhing over the Supreme. Nico wanted to go the Supreme, but he's got the shades. Remember Amaretto Rose going back about 15 years or so ago, who was the mare, the novice mare. They ran in the Supreme. She went off favourite. She got a real nasty cut on her leg, and that was pretty much her career done. So I think, as you say, that kind of inexperience factor, as once bitten, twice shy, as far as the great Seven Barrows maestro is concerned, and he's going to keep her to her own sex here. So the cheer 13-8, I could see her going off even shorter than that, to be honest with you. I think she's a very popular horse. You wear it well each way for the Jamie Snowden team. Bolted up in the Jane Seymour at Sandown last time out. Funny enough, if you take the collateral form in the strictest sense of the Dan Skelton mare, She's a Saint, well, You Wear It Well beat her by further than Lucia did earlier in the season. Now, and it doesn't always work out like that. And obviously, Lucia is improving at a vast rate of knots, but I don't think You Wear It Well is all that far out of this. And I do think you're getting, in quotes, smaller trainer syndrome here at 10-1. Now,
Yeah.
her performance was serious at Sandown last time out. Jamie Snowden on a wider point again. Another trainer having a spectacular season, plundering prize after prize. I think You Wear It Well, 10-1, confirmed to run in the race. I think she is cracking each way value personally. I don't think she's all that far behind the protagonists in this one. Right, we move on to the next race we must cover now. Is the Kim Muir, the concluding race on Thursday. Good luck, Stephen. That's all I could say. But Stumptown.
Whoa.
This is the horse. All the money is arriving for. The market pretty much been dominated by Mr. Incredible and Stumptown in recent times. Stumptown into 7-2, non-runner, no bet now. We bet 365. Fives, Mr. Incredible. Sevens, Angels, Dawn. Eight's big. I'm not going to go through them all. Any view on this, or is this one you make yourself a cup of decaf tea and sit out?
No, this is a good race to watch. I quite like Rapper here of Henry Daly. He was
Yeah,
a good winner here
yeah,
on New Year's Day on soft ground. Again,
yeah,
he's a horse. My confidence has increased with the weather forecast. I think he does need soft ground. He ran a screamer next time at Sandown. Again, he's pretty exposed, but the yards had a fantastic season. He's had something of a renaissance season, Henry Daly, and they're in good form at the minute. He's
yeah.
had 3 winners in the last 14 days at the time of recording. So Rapper definitely stays, definitely goes on soft ground, definitely handles the undulations of Cheltenham, and I think he's bound to give his running. Now, the Irish might have half a dozen horses who are much better treated and on a different level of form to him, but I thought he was probably one of the best of the English Raiders, and he's 25-1. I think he's right down the bottom of this list. I've certainly seen 20 around anyway, so he should be a big price. And I think he's one of those horses, he'll give you a good run for your money. He's got conditions to suit without being spectacularly unexposed or well treated.
Yeah, absolutely. Rapper there for Henry Daly. Interesting you flagged up Henry Daly saying he's having a renaissance. Were you statistically quite correct there, Stephen? To this point through the season, Henry Daly having the second best season numerically since he took out his trading license 25 years ago. So
That's
the
amazing.
Henry Daly team absolutely flying. You
Yeah.
think back
Very,
into
very
Mighty Man.
underplayed.
Yeah,
Trainer stats
flying.
said are underplayed and not talked about enough. People blithely say in form, out of form. I mean, I quite like things when trainers are completely dead. I mean, and struggling for form.
Well, not literally.
Not literally, no. Paul Webber, for instance, who's had Cheltenham Festival winners, he recently retired Indefatigable, who was his stable
Yeah,
star. How many
yeah.
winners do you think Paul Webber's had this season, Ed?
Oh, that's a very good question. I literally do not have a clue.
It's none.
Six. None. Is it none?
None.
None.
None. Yeah,
None.
he's had
Right.
49 runners, and
Right.
I think 3 of them have managed to be placed. So things like that are undiscussed because it's not good news in the sort of general scheme of
Right.
things, but it's well worth
It's
bearing in
information
mind.
to have. Yep. It's information
Yeah,
to have and use to your. As you say, you can use that to your advantage. If you think on the back of that, a horse is going off artificially big, then that is all factored into the price, isn't it? So that's
yeah, yeah.
exactly as you say. Trainer statistics often something to keep a very close eye on indeed. Right, we're on to the finale, Gold Cup Day. Kick off on the Friday. Obviously, we get the Triumph Hurdle out of the way. We can watch Blood Destiny win that on the bridle, and we'll go on to the County Hurdle, where surprise, surprise, Filey Bay. I'll say late money. We're still over a week away, but Filey Bay very strong in the market for this. Pembroke, we're going to come on to him in a minute. I know we are at 8-1. 9's Hunter's Yarn. 10's Gin Coco. Harry Fry giving a very positive mention, a very positive bulletin for that individual there at 10's. Winter Fog 10's. All can risk who could go here with a Grand Annual. Ilete Tomp, who 99% sure runs in the Supreme. Then we're into the horses 12-1 Charger. Wouldn't be the daftest selection in the world, I don't think. Back in handicap company, of course, a horse who's been placed in champion hurdles before. Right, Stephen, yeah, dance floor is yours. Take it away, please.
Well, we've got another Emmett Mullins hot pot potentially here with Filey Bay, who was arguably a bit unlucky at Newbury. On that day, they rolled the track and it was incredibly quick ground and they broke all the track records. The pair of them miles clear. He made a really bad mistake 2 out when he looked like he was coming to win and just got out battled. I've got a big ground question mark for Filey Bay, which is unusual for a
Mm,
horse trained in Ireland. I think all of his improvement in handicaps has come on decent ground. So
Right.
we don't know. It could
By the,
be
by the
decent
Friday,
ground
yeah.
by the
Yeah, it
Friday.
could
Yeah,
be.
we just don't know. But at the minute, you'd have to say it looked like more like to be soft than good, doesn't it? So that would
Yeah.
be a worry. I mean, we've both napped the same horse here, haven't we?
I know. That's
Independently, I might add. No
the
conferring. It's a
double
universal
penalty.
challenge at the back there.
We
Yeah,
apologise, Mr. Skelton, for the
I
double
mean,
penalty. Yeah.
when Pembroke is a very highly regarded and very nice novice. Now, the negative might be his inexperience in a huge field of battle-hardened handicappers with about 15 Irish plots in the race, but he's been progressing really nicely. He handles testing ground. He's won on heavy. He's a strong traveller. I thought he possibly got caught a little bit too far back. Went backed off the boards here last time out. He bumped into that horse of Sid Hosey's, who
Rock my way.
rather got first run, but the pair pulled steadily clear. I thought it was a belting good run. And when Harry got off him, apparently, he just said one word to Dan in the paddock, county. And
Yeah.
this is the
Didn't
race.
say it,
They have
however.
got terrific, yeah, and a drop back in trip on, if it is
Yeah.
soft ground, absolutely ideal. A strong run
Perfect.
race. He'll be
Yeah.
powering home up the hill. They've won this race, I think, with Superb Story, with Chitibello owned by Ian Marmion. So it's a race they
Mo
target. And
Hayed. Yeah. Yeah.
Moed as well. I think Bridget
Yeah.
was on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Pembroke is really well treated. More to come.
Yeah.
8-1 with all the extra places. I mean, you'd be mortified if he wasn't involved. I think he has to go really, really close. And I also think he's one of those horses. I could imagine him being sort of 9-2 come the off,
Yeah.
because you know how they shorten up the front ones in the market in these sort of races on the last day of the festival, especially. That horses don't tend to get much bigger; they get shorter as the liabilities pile up if the results have gone against the layers, especially. So, I think Pembroke's one of the better bets of the afternoon on Friday.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you there, Stephen. Pembroke off 136.
Mm.
As you say, it feels like he's got a few pounds a hand up that mark, dotted up at Ludlow. Quite simply, thought in that Cheltenham running on trials day behind Rock My Way, I thought he was outstayed by the stayer. And it was 2.5
Mm.
miles on soft ground. And that horse, Rock My Way, is going for the Albert Bartlett. They're talking about him being a Grand National horse in time. I thought it was the 4 miler outstaying the 2 mile hurdler, essentially. And that's all it was. And as
Yeah.
you say, back down to 2 miles one for a race. They've absolutely farmed the Skeltons, haven't they? As you say, won it 3 times in the last 7 years or so. They've had a couple of horses placed as well. Third time Lucky and West Cork in that time. Always aim one at this. And I think Pembroke, I agree with you. I'm struggling to see him out the frame with a clear round here. So, yeah,
Mm.
he's one of my strongest fancies of the week. We'll move on to your nap of the week now. The Hunter's Chase, Stephen.
Oh, God.
What have you got in this? Is it line through this one? Anything, or we move on quickly?
No, move on quickly, Ed. I'm not a hunter
Right.
chase expert.
Okay.
There's some
No,
people who
that's
get
fine.
fortunes back in hunter chases. There's some
Yep.
blinding judges who go to every point to point and video them, and the money
Yep.
in these hunter chases is usually very accurate. But have we got Bill away this year? Is he back again?
He is.
He's run since you were a boy. He's been running at the Cheltenham Festival, hasn't he? But it's been about 20 years in a row, I think, isn't it?
Feels like it. I'm coming half expecting a horse like Isterbrak to be in the parade ring at the same time he
Yeah.
is. Yeah, he seems to have been around forever. You say the defending champion. He's currently 8-1 non-runner no bet. Yeah, I have absolutely no idea. So I'm not going to lie. I'll put a line through that and move on. The Mayor's Chase. Now this is shaping up into a real hot race again. A lot of critics saying this race shouldn't be in existence at Cheltenham Festival. That's a different strand of argument and debate. One thing you can't deny is Allegory de Vassy against Impervious. Perhaps throwing Jeremy's Flame as well in there. This is humdinger stuff. I mean, Allegory de Vassy, credible engine, beat Brandy Love over hurdles
Mm.
last season. To sum up, I would say Allegory de Vassy, the better engine, but the shaky jumper. Impervious, a really, really smart and slick jumper of a fence. Probably the best jumping mare in training, but has she got that X Factor turbo kind of under the bonnet? It's hard to shape up which way do you go? Do you go the better jumper, or do you go the slightly dodgier jumper who might have a bit more in hand? Have you got a strong view on this one?
Not a strong view. I mean, both of the front two go in heavy ground, so if the rain arrives, that would be a plus for both of them in a way. Jeremy's Flame, saw at Huntingdon winning incredibly impressively, but that was on pretty decent ground, and I suspect Jeremy's Flame might not want really testing ground.
Mm.
I token selection here because I love the mare so much. Zambella, she's a brilliant front
Oh, yeah,
running jumper,
yeah,
and you know she's going to probably lead. Jacob will probably be on. I'll have her winning. I mean, she's 20 for looking.
yeah.
I'm sure she'll be much bigger than that on the day, but she's liable to get an attacking ride out of trouble. She's got quite a bit to find with Jeremy's Flame, but maybe this sort of track will suit Zambella more than Jeremy's Flame. If Zambella can dominate, I think she'll give you a good run for your money. But this is actually a really good race. There's been a lot of criticism of this mare's chase, but at least this time around, it's attracted a competitive looking field and quite a high class one at that.
It has. It absolutely has. You're right. This looks brilliant. I mean, I was a bit unfair to those at bigger prices. Obviously, Zambella for the double green, Simon Manier and Isaac Swade. Yeah, she's got to come into it. Riviere de Tal. If you remember rightly, I tipped this mare to win the Arkle last year. She finished fifth behind Edwardstone, but the fact I mentioned the word Arkle kind of tells you the level she's been competing at. She absolutely flopped behind Zambella last time out. It was back in November, wasn't it, at Carlisle, when coming last. Subsequently, her back had gone. She's had a back operation. Getting a lot of positive vibes out of the Elliott team here. But you look back through her form, being half a length by Blue Lord, who's 4-1 to
Mm.
win a Ryanair chase, a length and a half by Fernie Hollow, fifth in an Arkle behind Edwardstone. You start looking through the level of competition she's been competing against. It is pretty smart. She's a big price there. Put it this way, I wouldn't be shocked if she started single figures on the day. I think she's the wrong price given her back class. You've got to take it on trust that the back operations work, because if it hasn't, then she'll pull up. But she's quite a few points beat. If you'd said a year ago, I mean, I think she was second favourite to win the Arkle or thereabouts. If you said she'd be going off 16s to win the Mares Chase, you would have been getting the
Mm.
wheelbarrow out. I'm going to take a chance on her at the price and hope the old back massager has worked. So that is the Mares Chase out of the way. We're pretty much nearly there now, aren't we? In regards to everything, we are indeed. It is the finale. It used to be the Grand Annual, of course, is now the Martin Pipe Handicap Hurdle. Conditional jockeys. Right, Spanish Harlem, 11 to 2, but of course, Langadan. Look, this horse, he's been the preview night
Mm.
horse for since preview nights are in existence.
Yeah.
They've got pretty they've got pretty unlucky with Langadan in many respects, and they bumped into Gallopin de Champ, who was in a handicap off 139 or something stupid a few years ago, then tipped up at the last when everybody was on. I mean, myself and you weren't, but pretty much everybody was on
Mm.
Langadan. They got their redemption at Aintree. To me, this looks a bit of even more plots in this time round. But look, Langadan's probably a good horse to go to. Do you think he can set the record straight here in this one, Stephen? If not, where are you going for your best bet in the Martin Pipe, please?
Well, I mean, he's been again targeted at this race. I mean, the one thing I'll say with Langdon, I think he's very much in the price. I think he's an easy case horse to make a case for, looking at numbers and handicap ratings and all the rest of it. If you actually watch how he's run this season, you wouldn't be racing to take 7-1. That's for sure. I couldn't dream of backing him on this occasion. I
Right.
really like Cool Survivor here. I know that
Hmm.
he's entered up in the other one, but just looking at the machine, I think is it the Ballymore he's in as well, Ed? Cool
The
Survivor.
Albert Bartlett.
Albert
Albert
Bartlett, beg
Bartlett.
your pardon.
I
He's
think they
something
said they
like
were leading towards the other race, but they haven't made their
right.
mind up. Blah blah blah. Yeah,
Well,
so
he's
they don't know.
40 for
Yeah,
the 40 for the
yeah.
Albert Bartlett on the exchange and 8 for this. So hopefully
Mm,
he's going to go for this. I mean, I thought he ran an absolute screamer last time
yeah.
out in Ireland behind good land in quite a good graded contest. He was dropped out and he made quite good headway and then disappeared hanging for pressure, which would be a slight worry, but I suspect it's greenness. He's only run 4 times over hurdles. He's a heavy ground winner over further. So the more rain that arrives, the better. And I've said this a few times in the past at Cheltenham. If they stay further, I absolutely love them dropping back in trip in these strongly run
Yeah,
handicaps.
on
Because
the new
as you know
course.
at
Yeah,
Cheltenham,
yeah,
they, especially conditionals, they get racing a
yeah.
mile too soon. They're going hell for leather from about 6 out, darting for home before they even turn for home, and the complexion can completely change. So if Cool Survivor gets a patient ride with his stamina for 3 miles on really testing ground already proven, I
Mhm.
think he's on a workable mark now going into handicaps. I think he'll take an awful lot of beating. He's much less exposed than nearly all of the principals at the head of the market. I really want him to come for this race because I think he'd be a cracking bet. And again, repeating myself, but Horses who stay further are going to get a patient ride. Are very
Mm,
good vehicles for betting it each way if you get all the extra places. To finish in the first six is a much shorter price than you're getting. I mean, I think he's around 8-1 with Bet365, and they're already giving
yeah,
five places by the look of it. Well, on the day it might be more. So if you can get 8-1 and maybe six places, a progressive, useful horse with proven heavy ground form on that chewed up ground at the end of the day on Friday, I think it'd be a
could be
belting
rattling
good
quick.
bet.
I
It
know
could
what you
be. I
mean.
mean,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
the trouble.
yeah,
We're
absolutely.
a week away. We're none the wiser, are we? It is
Yeah,
difficult. I mean, I think I preferred it when I thought it was going to be dry, and you knew the new clerk would be
me,
putting tons of water on, and it'd be good
yeah.
to soft, and that was it. Now
Mm.
we're in that sort of minefield. It could be good to soft, but it could also be heavy. It's very difficult. Very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. But nonetheless, cool survivor, pretty much at the top of the shortlist for Stephen. I am with Might Eye. This horse,
Right.
good
Yeah.
bumper horse, he's been running up the backside of some very useful individuals. If you look, try to give weight away to Constitution Hill once upon a time. Unsurprisingly, that didn't work out. Chased home the likes of John Bon. He's got some very smart form. I thought ran a perfect trial for this here last time out. Lorcan Merton will be on board, as far as I'm aware, knows the horse very well. I think Might Eye, half brother to Statler. I think he'll improve stepping up to this trip. He didn't see out 3 miles earlier in the season on soft ground when he was too keen, but I think this kind of niche trip here will be absolutely perfect for him. And off 145, he'll be top weight. Plus, I said he's got some kind of graded hurdle form to his name. I think he's going to be right in the mix. Right, well done, Stephen. That pretty much wraps things up. That is every race that is not a grade one covered at the Cheltenham Festival. We've covered a whole plethora of action there. But now we're going to nail the colours to the mast as always. And it's now time for our Cheltenham handicap best of the rest tips of the week. Right then, Stephen. Usual format: your nap, your value, and your long shot. Take it away, please.
Right, Ed, let's knock this out of the park. Bet365, each way tricksy, I think, these three. With all the extra places, 8-1, 8-1, 20-1. Lovely. Pembroke in the county hurdle, we've discussed it, laid out for the race. Dropping back in triple suit, strongly run handicap, a very workable mark in the mid 130s. Stable got a brilliant record in the race. Every drop of rain welcome, must run well. I'm pretty confident he'll go really close with luck in running. Obviously, you need luck in running. Something falls in front of you, all these dreams are immediately dashed. But I think he's going to take an awful lot of beating. In the Martin Pipe, the last race on day 4, cool survivor. I thought it was a big eye catcher in Ireland last time out. 28-1 in that graded race won by Good Lord. He's shaped well under a patient ride. He's a proven 3-mile winner on heavy, so he's back half a mile in trip. I think that'll really suit him in a strongly run handicap. Again, he's got a workable mark and he could improve past it. And finally, Zandabad in the Fred Winter in the Boodles on day 1. A Tony Martin plot, 3 runs. He's caught the eye on each occasion, especially last time, which I think they were carefully preserving his opening mark. He had winning heavy ground form in France on the flat, where he's a 4-time winner. So any more rain, the better for him. Zandabad, I think he's 16, maybe 20 for looking. I think he'll run really well as well.
Brilliant. 3 value selections from Stephen there for the Cheltenham Festival. And unfortunately, as we mentioned earlier, Mr. Skelton, we've given you the double mockers here, haven't we? Because I'm
Mm.
weighing in as well. My nap in regards to the handicaps of the Cheltenham Festival will be Pembroke to land the county hurdle as well. Really keen on that horse's claims. I think he is a well handicap sort off 136 and should have a lot more to offer with the drop back in trip promising to suit. My value tip, well, I've gone with Walking on Air for the Nicky Henderson team. I just think this individual's got a lot more to come. One off a mark, 133 last time out to get himself qualified for this. Off 138 here. I'd be surprised if he wasn't a good few pounds better than that. Incidentally, I think Fingal Bay was the last horse who actually won that extra race back in 2014 and then went on for success at the festival. I can see a similar thing happening here with Walking on Air. Then look, Kilcrut, I'm throwing him in here because I think he's entered in about 18 races. I have no idea where he runs, if he's even coming to the Cheltenham Festival. He could go to the Ultima. He could go to the Plate. Look, non-runner, no bet. You could play now. because I could see a little bit of a gamble on him starting if he did line up. But all in all, he's more of a horse for the tracker. If he lines up in a handicap, I will back him. I haven't done yet, but off 149, so I wouldn't be shocked if a horse of his ability showed something, dropped into handicap company from Grey Ones. Right, Stephen, it's been a pleasure. Some wonderful info there. I suppose for the next week, just a case of weather watching for you, yeah?
Yeah, I think so, and maybe trying to get a few bets, or maybe do a few tricksies and each way accas with sort of Valban and Statler and all these sort of Pembroke, Cool Survivor, trying to sort of the life changing bet, Ed. That's what we've got to look for, isn't it? Try and find a fantastic each way multiple with all these extra places on offer. I do think the punters, to coin a phrase, they've never had it so good, really. That the bookmakers want to take your money during Cheltenham, which is not something that applies to the rest of the year. So if you look around, there is some terrific value about, particularly with firms like Bet365 with all these extra places.
There is indeed. As the sun beams through the window on your face there, Stephen. You can work on your tan. You can go and check those tulips, and keep your eyes on the weather and the place terms. To say lots to be done over the course of next week or so. But my thanks to Stephen, as ever, for all his input on all the races. Thank you for watching at home. And of course, don't forget to check out all Stephen's best bets on bettingexpert.com. Not long now to the 2023 Cheltenham Festival. We'll see you again soon.